It's Wednesday. We've known each other 3 weeks, and we're meeting for lunch. It is the one lunch we'll eat together on a working day, though our offices are only a $1.05 cab ride apart. It is a midtown restaurant, as noisy as the streets outside, fluorescent lights, a scowling crowd waiting at the door to be seated. We sit across from each other in the glare. He orders roast beef sandwiches and wine. I've had a minor triumph in the morning. A project I've been pushing for months has come through. I go on about it happily. It's not such a big deal in itself, but it's exciting to me because all along it looked as if he puts his thumb diagonally across my lips. His fingers cup my left cheek. I want to hear all about it. There'll be lots of time tonight. Leave your mouth open. He takes his hand from my face and dips his thumb into my glass of wine. The liquid, a deep red in the glass, turns pink and transparent on his skin. He wets my lips with it. His thumb moves slowly. My mouth is slack under his touch. Then across my upper teeth, from left to right, back along the lower teeth from right to left. Finally, his thumb comes to rest on my tongue. I think, without alarm, idly, we're in broad daylight. A slight pressure on my tongue prompts me to begin to suck his thumb. It tastes salty under the wine. When I stop, he pushes gently, and I resume, and only when my stomach melts do I close my eyes. He is smiling when he retrieves his thumb. He holds his palm above my plate and says, "Dry me off." I wrap his hand in my napkin as if stilling blood. Instead of the untouched sandwich before me, I see myself, tied to the bed, tied to the dining room table, tied to the legs of the bathroom sink, flushed amid the steam while he takes a shower. I listen to the water roar, sweat beads itching on my upper lip. My eyes closed, my mouth open, tied and stripped, tied and reduced to a single frenzy, craving more. "Don't forget," he says, "sometimes during the day I want you to remember how it is with you. And then drink your coffee." I sip the lukewarm fluid decorously, as if by permission. He stirs me out of the restaurant. 2 hours later, I give up and call him. The spell has remained unbroken. I have stared at my calendar. I have stared out of my window at the grid of windows across the street. I have not taken my calls. His secretary warns me crisply that he has an appointment in 5 minutes. Then there's his voice. "You can't do this to me," I whisper into the phone. There is a short silence. "I'm cooking shrimp tonight," he says slowly. "Think about that." The lunch was a turning point. It made clear to both of us that my life was split neatly in two, day and night, with him, without him, and that it was a mistake and possibly dangerous to mix the two. Day by day, week by week, the two segments of my life edged into an increasingly complete balance. The clearer, the more focused, the more fantastic our evenings became, the more did my working life slip into fantasy. It was a pleasant enough fantasy. I did well within it, better, in fact, than I had while my office, my clients, my work had been serious matter, hardcore reality. As is only right in one's fantasy, I was at ease, relaxed, calm. I won a new account one day, charmed a colleague into peace after months of altercations the next. I worked tirelessly, suspended minor annoyances over which I would have fretted in the past. A phone call not returned, a longer than reasonable wait for a client's decision, a coffee stain on my sleeve half an hour into my day, no longer mattered. The reality of my days was replaced by surface equanimity and a blandness to the core. My lunches bland, going past me unnoticed, mingling bland and friendly talk with bland and friendly people. Friends, clients, colleagues, all the same. I moved through the subways, noting the fortuitous combination of light and dark blues on the ceiling posts. Above ground, cabs a pleasant yellow. Once I counted 9 taxis in a row down Park Avenue. A dream city without debris seen by someone drugged, or by a severely nearsighted woman, bravely and foolishly at large without glasses. Crowds that automatically and amiably part to let me through. Every day a different movie, none burdened by a plot, or only toying with a plot so languid as to reveal no connections, no power to engage me beyond its agreeable surface, always only hours away from reality, taking time out from what counted, what really went on in my life, a breathing spell from the exhilarating and inexorable plot unfolding at night. The nights were palpable and fierce, razors outlined so clearly as to be luminous. A different country, its landscape and currency plain. Heat, fear, cold, pleasure, hunger, glut, pain, desire, overwhelming lust. There was sharp pepper that made me gasp, and the shock of chili burning my throat, and chablis like gold smoothing my vocal cords. A simple chocolate pudding he'd made from a royal mix invading my blood. My body alive and pliant around me, soon to turn liquid or a fire, either way. Every night, looking down at myself after a bath. Flecks of foam on my nipples and pubic hair, one palm docile inside the other, wrists accustomed to lying against one another, glinting steel as natural as silver combs in one's hair and as decorative. Every night now I reveled in my beauty. Years ago, once the frenzied adolescent obsession had calmed itself, I had sized up my body and decided that it was all right. I knew very well which parts of me would look better were they shaped differently, but had not worried over such acknowledged deficiencies for over a decade. Whenever I did fall into the trap of criticizing too harshly, I told myself that for every demonstrable iniquity there was something pleasing to point to, resulting, altogether, in an acceptable balance. But now, under his eyes and hands, I had neither jumped rope nor jogged in the park. I had not lost or gained a pound. It had to be, after all, the same body in which I had lived since adulthood. But there it was, unrecognizable, transformed, supple, graceful, polished, adored. The flesh leading to the crook of an elbow, where 2 cerulean veins fade into opaque skin, exquisitely soft. A belly like silk sloping gently toward hip bones. An upper arm joining my torso to form a delicate fold like that at the center of a young girl's pubic mound. A shallow, oval hollow at the inside of a thigh, leading upward from the knee, smoothing gently, giving way to a slow ripening, downy white, infinitely sensitive, the finest fabric in the world. I have to go to a meeting, he says. It's the wrap-up of the Handelmeyer thing. Just a formality, it shouldn't take long. He is getting dressed again, having finished the dinner dishes. A different suit, though identical in cut to the one he took off 2 hours ago, dark gray now instead of dark blue. A fresh, light blue shirt, twin to the one I'm wearing, a dark gray silk tie with small wine-red dots arranged into diamond shapes. He says, I'd like you to do something before I leave. He leads me into the bedroom and says, lie down. He ties my ankles to the footboard, my left wrist to the headboard. He sits down on the bed beside me. He slides his right hand up my right thigh, polishes my hip bone under his palm, brushes the skin on my stomach with that part of the hand with which TV Orientals deal karate chops. He rests his thumb on my navel for a moment, exerting the gentlest of pressure, then opens the two fastened buttons of my shirt, and, with both hands, slowly pushes the fabric aside. The sleeves of his suit jacket brush my nipples. My breathing has been irregular since he first told me to lie down. Whenever he touches me, I hold my breath, then breathe rapidly and shallowly until his next touch. I cannot keep my head still on the pillow. He takes my free right hand. Holding my palm and looking at me all the while, he sucks each of my fingers until they drip with saliva. He guides my hand between my legs and says, "I like to watch you make yourself come." He is sitting idly, comfortably, one leg crossed over the other, the creases sharp in the freshly cleaned suit. I do not try to move my hand. He waits. "You don't understand," my voice cracks. He is silent. "I've never done that in front of anybody. It embarrasses me." He picks up the package of Winston's from the bedside table, puts a cigarette in his mouth, lights it, draws on it ineptly, eyes squinted, puts it between my lips. A moment later, I need to move my hand to hold the cigarette. "It embarrasses her," he repeats. His tone of voice is bland. There is no mocking inflection, nor is there a trace of anger in what he says next. "You're pretty dense, aren't you? You haven't caught on yet what we're all about." Without disturbing the cigarette, he takes my watch from my free wrist. "I'll be back in a couple of hours, no later." He turns off the bedside lamp, then the lamp in the corner, and closes the bedroom door quietly. I am shaken and, at the moment, concerned more than anything that I should be able to light another cigarette after this one. There is the saucer I use for an ashtray on the bedside table, and the pack of Winston's, but he has put the lighter he bought for himself, to light my cigarettes, back into his pocket. There are no matches in sight. I put the half-smoked cigarette into one corner of my mouth, retrieve the pack, shake one cigarette loose, put the pack on my stomach, move the ashtray next to my right hip. Then an awkward turning and reaching and stretching, but I manage it, though crushing the pack as I roll over. I transfer the half-smoked cigarette to the hand bound to the headboard, hold the fresh cigarette to the lit one with my free hand, wait, put it into my mouth. The third time it lights. I do not ask myself why I'm not thinking clearly enough to simply put an unlit cigarette in my mouth and hold the lit one against it. Nor do I ask myself why I refrain from untying myself, something I could accomplish more easily and surely more quickly than the sweaty fumbling I've just been through. My face burns again at the thought of him, anyone watching me. I think, this is the first time I've said no. Then, that's nonsense, melodrama. I've explained something to him, that's all, something he doesn't know about me. He knows I'll do anything, I say out loud, though tentatively, into the faint whir of the air conditioner, at the shadows on the ceiling, to the shape that is his tall chest of drawers. I am appalled that it was me who said the words that now ring in my ears. I try to count what I wouldn't do. I once had anal intercourse with someone, and it hurt, and we stopped. But I would surely try it again, with him, should he want to. I've read how people urinate on each other. Shit. I've never done that, and the thought of it nearly makes me ill. Surely he'd never want to do that, either. But how did I feel about being tied up and beaten only weeks ago? And why should there be any difference between the various ways in which he makes me come and masturbating in front of him if it pleases him? Yet the shame of it squints my eyes shut, turns my legs cold, grinds my teeth. Nearly a decade ago, A good friend of mine had described to me how she and her lover masturbated together and how much she liked it. "Don't worry," she had said to me when I blurted out, not haltingly that time, but with spontaneous horror, that I could never do that, would not ever. "It's just your particular hang-up. We've all got them. I can't stand it when a man puts his tongue in my ear. Gives me the creeps." She had laughed uproariously. I say it out loud. Hang-up. My hang-up. All at once I respect the word. No longer a flabby, anonymous catch-all, a dark spectre suddenly, precise. Gallows in marketplaces, lynchings at noon, and then there he is at the door. He turns on the bedside lamp, slips my watch back onto my wrist, carefully pushes the thin strap through both loops. I'm too impatient to do that and always stop after the first loop is secured so that the second one is stiff from disuse. He says, "You started masturbating early." I laugh. "That's either a hunch or an accusation," I say. "How was the meeting?" He says nothing. I focus on the brass handles of the chest of drawers, fixing them sharply in my mind. "I guess 6. I don't remember," he prompts. "And often, as an adult?" I begin one of the sentences I have rehearsed in his absence. Reasonable sentences, adult sentences. Choice and preference and the delicate balance of intimacy versus... I falter, leave the brass handles behind, face the window now, the need to turn away from him overpowering. He takes my face into both hands and draws it slowly back to the side of the bed where he is sitting. He speaks deliberately. "I want you with me, but I won't force you to stay." The air conditioner shifts gears, purrs. I open my mouth. He puts a finger gently across my lips. "This is how it is with us. Listen. While you're with me, you do as I say. While you're with me," merely repeated without added gravity, "you do as I say." And a moment later, disgruntled, "For Christ's sake, what's the big deal?" And finally, casually, "You could give it another try. You might want me to get you some cream. I could lower the lights." "It's the only thing," I say, my face turned back toward the window. "Ask me. I'll do anything else." He picks up the bedside phone, dials a number from memory, gives his name, his address, and mine, and says, 15 minutes. He takes the largest of his suitcases from the top shelf of the closet, lays it open on the bedroom floor. I have brought those belongings of mine that are now scattered throughout his apartment in separate installments. A large straw basket once, a canvas overnight case another time, sometimes just things stuffed into a shopping bag. He takes my clothes, all on the left side of the closet, off the rod, folds them in half, still on his wooden suit hangers, and they lie neatly on the bottom of the suitcase. A scarf here, another one, the fountain pen he bought for me so that I would stop using his, some books in the living room, 6 records, 4 pair of shoes, underwear jumbled in his second bureau drawer, the unopened bottle of Miss Dior he bought me last Saturday, and a second one almost empty. A trip to the kitchen. He returns with a large plastic garbage bag. I hear the bathroom paraphernalia clatter into the bag. He is back in the bedroom. The plastic bag takes up most of the suitcase. My hairdryer, my diary, the suitcase snaps shut. It has not taken him 5 minutes. He unties me and rubs each ankle and my left wrist at length, though they were fastened loosely enough to show no marks. He gently tugs his blue shirt off my back. He has left out a summer sweater of mine, folded on a chair. I raise my arms automatically, and he slips the pale wool over my head, and a gray linen skirt. I'm so used to being dressed by him that I wait for him to kneel before me on one knee while I step into the waistband. I think. I've never told him that I always put skirts on over my head. He thinks of skirts as the equivalents of pants, so naturally one steps into them, pulls them up. And he's forgotten underwear. I surely can't be on the street at midnight with a skirt on and no underpants. stepping into the open waist, watching him get up while he eases the skirt up over my hips, the lifting of the sweater while he pulls the zipper at my left side and fastens the hook and eye, the smoothing of thin wool over raw linen. He holds up my sandals now and motions for me to sit on the bed. I hold out each foot in turn, flex the arch, watch him slip on the sandal and fasten the buckle. He stands behind me and brushes my hair. I'll take you down to the taxi. If I find other things of yours, I'll drop them off. His brush in my hair, the slow seductive strokes, the faint crackling of electricity. I turn and clutch his thighs. He holds very still. I am crying loudly as a child. Both of his hands are in my hair. The brush has fallen on the carpet. The cab will be here any minute, he says, and the doorman's ring at that very moment. My voice raised. You can't. His bland at the intercom. Kind enough to tell him I'll be right down. And to me, I thought you had decided. And then the kneeling before him, not to satisfy him with my mouth, as so often before, but in abjection, the pleading, incoherent yet clear, anything, and please, and his voice at the brass box again, smooth. Give him $5, Ray, and tell him to wait. Thank you very much. And his few steps back down the hall, and into the bedroom, and a thug's growl. All right, then no, do it. My body pushed prone, and the hem of my skirt scratchy around my neck. He takes his father's ring off his right hand, throws it on the bed above, holds me by the throat with the left hand, uses the ring-free right to slap my face, palm on left cheek, the back of his hand on the right, the palm again. All right, then, let's see her do it. My own hand shoved into my mouth. Make it easy for her, good and wet. And in the softest voice, a murmur. I'll get you started, sweetheart. It'll be so simple. My thighs spread apart, heat springing up under his tongue, and only a slight shift when he lifts his head and brings my hand to where he has begun what I am far too familiar with to try or want to fight. My fore and middle fingers slipping down as always, and coming. I loved this, he says. I love watching your face. You look so extraordinary when you come. You stop being pretty and turn into this thing, ravenous, with a stretched open mouth. And in the hallway, give him another $5, Ray. Tell him to go home. Nothing had prepared me. Some years back I had read the story of O, intrigued by the beginning, horrified after a few pages, repulsed long before the end. Sado-masochists in real life were black leather freaks, amusing and silly in their ridiculous get-ups. If a friend, a peer, had told me she had herself tied to a table leg at home after a full day's work at the office, well, it has never come up. God knows I would not have believed it. At 4:30 on a Friday afternoon, he calls me at work. You'll be in room 312 at the Algonquin at 5:30. I've had lunch there once, a few days earlier, during yet another one of our interminable talks. Let's compare restaurants and hotels. There's the Paris Ritz. Ridiculous. Zum then? Good bratwurst. Lousy sauerkraut. Mediocre coffee. I had told him how romantic the lobby had seemed to me, and the plush red corner where I had sat with 2 clients. They had long been inured to Algonquin charm, and I told him how I had to suppress my enjoyment sufficiently to be able to concentrate on what they were saying. I intend to go by subway, but an elderly couple climbs out of a checker in front of my office building just as I walk through the revolving glass. I hold the car door for them, listen to my thigh muscles ache as I repeat to myself, "You'll be at 5:30, and walk through the Algonquin doors minutes later. I knock at 312 twice, but there is no answer, and the door is unlocked. I have assumed he would be waiting for me. I say his name at the bathroom door, which stands ajar, even, on an impulse only half playful, open the closet. There is no one there. The bed is piled high with packages. Not gift-wrapped, but what one spills on a bed after a day of shopping just before Christmas. The room key is in the ashtray on the bedside table, his handwriting on a note stuck above the dial numbers on the phone. Open them, it reads, and take a bath and get dressed. I start with one of the smaller shopping bags from Brooks Brothers. It contains a light blue shirt, like the ones I have been wearing at night, but smaller. Men's socks in an Altman's bag. A container that looks like a child's hat box holds a sandy beard and mustache wrapped in tissue paper. My hands shake a little by the time I unwrap the largest package, a dark gray suit and vest. Shoes next, a tie, a blonde man's wig, a small packet of hairpins from Woolworth's, a white handkerchief, a man's summer hat. I push the wrappings aside and sit down on the edge of the bed, holding the wig in both hands. It's an expensive wig, the hair human and soft to the touch. Alarm and excitement race inside me, side by side, like speeding cars on a dark highway. Every few moments they narrow the space between them and touch without noise or sparks, gently. Once I'm in the bathwater, Estee Lauder, Jean Naté, and Vitabath to choose from, but I can't. Put careless amounts of each under the gushing faucets. They cancel each other out. For the first time in weeks, I'm submerged in milky water without foam, amid a confused mingling of scents. Alarm chooses a turn-off. Excitement hurtles me onward. Dark miles stretching ahead. Headlights illuminating only a few yards of gray road as I turn the virgin square of soap over and over between my palms. I dry myself in the sequence in which he dries me every evening. Face and neck, feet and calves, back and buttocks. The only thing missing from the costume now spread out on the bed is underwear. The trousers' lining is smooth against my skin. The socks fit, the shirt fits. My breasts are small enough so that the layers of shirt and vest and finally suit coat obscure them completely. I put on the shoes, an old-fashioned wingtip style, like his, the gleaming leather lining pungent. Why don't women's shoes ever smell this delicious? The left one feels tight at first. There is a small pot of theatrical glue, a brush attached to the inside of the cap. I'm in a quandary, can't decide whether the glue goes on the backing of the mustache and the beard or on my skin. I end up spreading it thinly on the backing, something like canvas, and position the mustache under my nose. It tickles and looks straight out of a high school play and makes me laugh out loud. I need to make 3 adjustments to get it to sit evenly above my upper lip. The beard is harder. Again and again, while the glue is setting and turning sticky, I take it off and start over, repositioning it until it ends up at the same distance from my earlobes on each side and stays put under my chin. The wig, by comparison, is easy. I brush my own hair into a scrawny ponytail high up on my head, twist it, pin loose strands close to my scalp all round. Once the wig is pulled over my hair onto my head, it fits tightly. I carefully lift an upper layer of hair and anchor another few pins through the canvas backing to my own hair beneath. The wig's hair at the back of my neck touches my shirt collar, almost covers my ears at the sides, falls onto my forehead in a thick wave. In the process of replacing the tissue paper in which the mustache has been wrapped, I find, in the same round box, a set of eyebrows. I glue them over my own. I have been scrutinizing myself in the mirror above the dressing table all along, but fixed on details. Now the mechanism comes into play that allows one to switch from focusing on a panel of glass, every dust particle and thumbprint important and distinct, to seeing the outside beyond, the window pane gone. There is a face in the mirror, no longer an isolated beard or the tilt of a wig. Alarm screeches at me from an obscure side street and collides with excitement before both continue to speed on side by side. I see that he looks ill at ease in a manner familiar to me, but I recognize nothing else. Across from me sits a slender, pleasant-looking young man. Were someone to introduce him to me at a party, I'd register the involuntary response. A nod somewhere in me. Possible. He has wide gray eyes, thick blonde hair, light bushy eyebrows, a fine nose, pale skin, a short reddish blonde beard. Acknowledging the spark of a preliminary understanding between us, he leans toward me. He, too, likes what he sees. It lasts for only a moment. There is a violent wrenching inside me. Alarm takes me over. The room swims. I cower on the floor at the foot of the bed, one sentence pounding in my chest. I want my mother. That, too, passes. I push back the hair over my forehead, open the pack of Camels that is lying on the bedside table. I've never smoked a Camel and began to cough immediately, my throat raw. But I inhale more deeply the second time, and, perversely, the rough flavor clears my head. I'm no longer dizzy, but clear-eyed and calm. I wonder, briefly, where to put the handkerchief. I can't remember where he keeps his, and finally put it into the back trousers pocket. I have never worn a garment with back pockets before, and slide my hand in and out of it, feeling the slippery lining and the curve of buttock beneath. Only 2 items are left, the tie and the hat, and both give me trouble. The tie, I discover, comes with instructions. Tucked into the tissue paper that is folded around the silk is a thin sheet of paper. He has done 5 diagrams. The heading reads, "What's on the drawing is what's in the mirror. Follow step by step." The first time around, the knot ends up an inch below the top collar button. The second time I get it right. The hat, however, is beyond me. I set it on top of my head carefully, then pull it down slightly, tilt it this way and that. I know enough about hats to realize it is my size, or rather, the correct size for my own head and pinned-up hair in the wig, but no matter how I push at it, it looks odd. Not even trying to summon the hat angles of various male movie actors, or the appearance of my lone male friend who wears hats regularly, makes sense when applied to the image in the mirror. I finally give up, reluctantly, and put the hat back in its box. It is 7 o'clock on my wristwatch, which I take off and put into my handbag. I wash my hands. I stand in front of the full-length mirror, buttoning and unbuttoning the jacket, posing first with one, then the other hand in my pants pockets. Then, idly and smiling, I take off my earrings and put those, too, with the watch. And I discover the belt, while carefully folding the many wrappings, returning, as if following a specific assignment, each smoothed sheet of tissue into its appropriate box or bag. The belt is identical to his, but stiffer. It fits into the palm of my left hand and slowly uncoils when I lay it on the bedspread. I run its length through thumb and forefinger, then close my hand into a fist around the buckle. I open it, wind the leather a few times across my palm and over the back of my hand, then close my fist once more. I am overwhelmed by the memory of a woman, her wrists tied to a shower head, writhing under the blows of this belt, which cuts through the curtain of water again and again. The phone rings. "I'm in the lobby," he says. "Come on down. Don't forget the room key." I slip the key into my right jacket pocket, transfer it to the right pants pocket, put it into the left jacket pocket, anxiously now. I thread the belt through the trouser loops, fumble the buckle shut. I pick up the camels and a book of matches, don't know where to put them, and end up holding them in my left hand. A balding, short man waits with me at the elevator for a moment, then mumbles under his breath and walks rapidly down the corridor. I look after him and realize that he is no shorter than I am. Wearing sandals with 3-inch heels, I am tall for a woman. Now I'm a man of below average height. A middle-aged woman stands at the back of the elevator. I step in and stand near the door. When we come to the first floor and I'm about to walk out into the lobby, I remember. I step aside and she passes through the door on ahead without looking at me. I am blushing and have to force myself not to smile. What an astonishing ritual, I think, and simultaneously, gleefully, I passed. He is sitting on a corner sofa, motions me to the chair facing him across a low round table with a brass bell, his glass of scotch, an empty ashtray. He is wearing his gray suit, identical to mine. He looks at me for a long time, taking in the shoes, the fit of the vest, the knot of the tie, the beard and hair. What about the hat? I couldn't get it to look right. I tried for a long time. He grins, then laughs out loud, takes a sip of his drink, seems utterly delighted. Never mind, he says finally, still smiling. You look fine. You look great, in fact. Let's forget about the hat. He leans forward and takes both of my hands between his, as if to warm them for a child who has come inside after building a snowman. Don't be nervous, he says. There is nothing to be nervous about. A waiter appears, hovering 2 steps to one side of us. He orders wine for me, more scotch for himself, still in the same position. His elbows on his knees, shoulders hunched forward, his hands around mine. I sit stiffly, erect, my eyes and my arms stretched woodenly toward him. I am overcome by that mixture of contradictory feelings I should long be used to, since one variation or another has assaulted me almost daily since we've known each other. I am deeply embarrassed, I am flushed, I am shaking, and I am exhilarated, drunk before my wine arrives, ablaze with mindless gusto. The waiter has no reaction at all, at least to judge from his expression when he brings our drinks, and when I can finally bring myself to look up at him. It's all inside you, you know, says the man sitting across from me in the same suit that I'm wearing. Nobody else ever cares, but it does make it a lot of fun for me that you do. We move on to a dining room then, where he holds my hand between courses. I have difficulty chewing, even more so swallowing. I drink close to twice the amount of wine I'm used to. He has another drink at the bar, his hand loosely on my thigh. Upstairs in the room he propels me toward the mirror. His arm around my shoulder, we look at our reflection. 2 men, one tall and clean-shaven, the shorter one sandy-bearded, dark suits, a pink shirt and a pale blue one. Take your belt off, he says, in a low voice, and I do, unable to take my eyes from his in the mirror. Not knowing what to do next, I coil it into the tight serpent it had been in its box. He takes it from me, says, "Get on the bed," and, "No, hands and knees." He reaches from behind me to open my trousers, then says, "Pull your pants down over your ass." Something gives way in me, and my elbows can't hold my weight. On my knees, my head on my arms, sounds from my throat that I can't interpret. Neither fear nor longing, but the inability to distinguish between the two, adding up to, he beats me, a pillow over my head to muffle my cries, then takes me as he would a man. I cry out louder than before, my eyes wide open to the dark of the pillow covering my face. Deep inside me his pounding stops abruptly. He forces me down flat, his right hand under me and between my legs. Lying on top of me, stretched full length, he lifts the pillow, listens to my sobs subside. When I realize that we are breathing in unison, calmed, his fingers begin their infinitesimal move. Soon I am breathing rapidly again. He pushes the pillow back over my face when I come, and soon he comes too. He puts wadded Kleenex off the bedside table between my buttocks. It is soaked with semen and tinged pink when he removes it later on. Curled against me, he murmurs, "So tight and hot, you can't imagine." Sometimes I wondered abstractly how it was possible that pain could be this exciting. Once, during that time, I stubbed my toe in sandals on my bottom desk drawer. I swore, hopped up and down, hobbled down the corridor to a co-worker's office to get sympathy from him, and couldn't concentrate on work for the next 15 minutes because the slight but incessant throbbing distracted and annoyed me. But when he was the one inflicting pain, the difference between pain and pleasure became obscured in a way that turned them into two sides of a single coin. Sensations different in quality but equal in result, equally intense, one stimulus as powerfully able as the next to arouse me. Since pain always came as a prelude and only then, sometimes hours earlier, but always eventually leading to orgasm, it became as longed for, as sensuous, as integral to lovemaking as having my breasts caressed. There is a pounding at the front door. It's 6:30 p.m., and I've only just let myself in a few minutes earlier. When I peer past the chain lock, there he is, rolling his eyes, a bag of groceries in the crook of his right arm, the handle of his briefcase between thumb and index finger, the remaining fingers of his left hand curled around the top of a bag festooned with the Bindle's logo. The post, folded lengthwise, is stuck between his teeth. A decisive shake of his head, the newspaper swishes across celery tops, tells me he does not wish to be unburdened. He walks into the kitchen and sets the groceries down with a satisfying thump, makes a sharp turn, drops the post in the hallway and his briefcase in the doorway to the bedroom. The briefcase clatters loudly. He winks at me gravely, and with both hands, ceremoniously, deposits the Bindle's bag on the unmade bed. "After dinner," he says, to my raised eyebrow and grin. "You didn't carry the paper in your teeth on the street," I say. "No," he says. "I stuck it in my mouth just before I banged on the door with my foot, for effect." He looks me sternly up and down. "Now?" I ask, after the salad. "Certainly not," he says. "What do you think this is? Weight Watchers? We're having an omelet." His Majesty can't think of what to cook. Again. He nods grimly. "And you'll love it." After the omelet is gone, his omelets are luscious. Crisp vegetables laced throughout, melted cheese on top, whole sautéed mushrooms on the side. I clear my throat. "Now?" "Really," he says, "you'd think you've never eaten here before. Don't I usually manage some sort of dessert? There's baklava." "Baklava," I groan. "After eggs, what a lurid combination." I'm full. "Please yourself," he says. "I've been tasting it ever since it leered at me from a greasy deli on Bleecker. You can watch me eat." When I have slurped the last drops of honey off his fingers, I smack my lips. "Disgusting," he says. "You look like you need another bath. There's stuff on your neck, for Christ's sakes. Even your eyebrows are sticky." He gets a dripping washcloth and scrubs at my face. "All right," I say pompously. "That's it. May I please see what's in the Bindle's bag?" "You never even found the second bag." He gloats. "I hid it inside the grocery bag. It bruised the tomatoes." Besides, I haven't had my coffee yet. I'll be liable to fall asleep without caffeine. It's been a long day. It takes another 15 minutes before we are ensconced in the living room. I am sitting on a pillow at the foot of the couch, handcuffed to the coffee table, waiting for him while he puts the coffee on, heats water for my tea, washes the dishes, carries the tray into the living room. He makes a great show of being relaxed and content, lights a cigarette for me, swings his feet onto the table, stifles a yawn, reaches for the post. I scream, "What's in the Bindles bag?" He puts an index finger to his lower lip and knits his brow. "Shh, shh. How crass can you be? The rent's high on purpose here, to keep screamers out. Old Lady Chrysler'll be at the door in a minute. Did I tell you about her? Down the hall in 15D. Needs to hear a new rape story every week and a couple of muggings, else she's plagued by irregularity. She's been short of juicy news 9 days now." Making fun of elderly women's bodily functions, I say. You can't get much lower than that. Next, I'll kick the coffee table out from under you. That'll wrench your spine and cause long-term lower backache. He sighs ostentatiously, swings his feet off the table, disappears, and is back again in 3 leaps, a parcel in each hand, arms stretched triumphant above his head. He throws the packages across the room, kneels beside me to undo the handcuffs. He rubs my wrists automatically, a reflex that has become ingrained with him and has nothing to do with the condition of my wrists, which, this time as most times, show not even a pink line where the metal has touched them. I have become adept at staying comfortable and unscathed within them. "Okay," he says. "I'll sit down and you'll go over there and see what's in it and put it on." 15B Living Theater, I mutter, and he nods. "You bet. Command performance." I open the Bindles bag first. It contains, swathed in the throwaway luxury of 6 layers of tissue paper, a black lace garter belt and a pair of pale gray stockings, seamed. Mirth rises irresistibly in my throat. I laugh out loud, laugh and laugh, hold the lace contraption stretched end to end high in the air. It looks vaguely skeletal and bat-like. I put it on my head. I catch one dangling strap between my teeth, cross my eyes at the one that swings past my nose. A third tickles my ear. "Cornrows," he bellows. "You've never looked so exotic." He yelps, he roars, he hoots. We are caught up across the large room between us, in the kind of fit one sometimes succumbs to as a child, without warning, during recess, or at a very specific, advanced, and brief stage of drunkenness, when it is impossible to explain the joke to a bystander, when it is impossible to explain the joke to oneself, not that one tries, when it is impossible to stop laughing long after one's sides ache. "What on earth?" He rubs his face and pushes the cushion beside him. By the time he answers, I've calmed down. I have pulled the thing off my head and hold it in my lap. "Look at it this way," he says, still smiling. "I'm catching up, pretty late, with an old fantasy of mine. Adolescent, 11, hell, that's not even... Anyway, I've done so much stewing over these things. As an 11-year-old, at 15, at 22, at 32, a black garter belt, not in a magazine, not in the movies, but on a live woman, and stockings with seams, and not a soul I've ever slept with wore them, not a one, so help me God. What can I tell you? I had to take matters into my own hands." He leers broadly and winks. I finally want to see what it all looks like in real life. "I've never worn a garter belt," I tell him, "though I've thought about buying one, off and on, for years. Except," I tell him, "I can't remember ever imagining myself in black. That would have been pink, maybe, or white." We're both laughing again. He describes the dignified saleswoman who waited on him, a woman our mother's age, large-bosomed, impeccable, glistening-mouthed, coolly uninterested. She had spread a bewildering array before him and had pointed out salient features. Adjustable straps, an elastic inset at the back of this one, better fit, special darts here, small rosettes of contrasting fabric and color enhancing the snaps on yet another one, all naturally cold water washable. You've chosen one of the 2 best-selling models, sir, she had told him. He had wanted to ask her what the other one was, but had decided against it when she had said, "Will there be anything else?" in what had seemed to him a near venomous voice. "Now look in the other box," he says, gleefully, and pushes the low table away from the couch. He is sitting with his legs apart, bare feet planted on the carpet, toes pointing outward, an elbow on each knee, his chin in the palm of his hands, his 2 ring fingers rubbing the skin at the outer corners of his eyes. His hair, dry now from the shower he took before dinner, lies soft above his forehead. A fine white cotton shirt, heavily frayed at the collar, unbuttoned, sleeves rolled up, chest hair curly and lower down less curly, disappearing into old and baggy tennis shorts. "You don't know what you look like right now," I say. "A Crusoe, happy on his island, who'll never wear a suit again. I'm so in love with you." He narrows his eyes and catches his lower lip with an upper canine, trying to mask a grin. Shy and pleased and so utterly dear to me that my vision blurs. He leans into the couch, head bent far back into the cushions. His arched throat gleams across the room. He pushes both hands through his hair and says to the ceiling, evenly, deliberately, "This has got to go on like this. All we have to do is just make it go on like this." And sitting up and hunching forward and waving an outstretched arm and pointed finger at me in a booming voice, "Open the other bag, damn it! You wheedled and whined all evening, now look at you drag your feet." "All right," I say, "yes, sir." The bag contains a shoebox from Charles Jordan, a store I've only looked at from outside, acknowledging wisely that even my Bloomingdale's card is at times too much of a temptation. I lift the shiny beige lid. Swaddled in yet more tissue paper lies a pair of elegant, light, gray suede pumps with heels so high I'm appalled. "You walk in these," I say vehemently. "My God, I didn't even know they made heels like that." He ambles across the room and crouches beside me on the floor, grinning sheepishly. "Yeah, well, I see what you mean." "See what I mean?" I repeat. "How can you not? You're sure these are supposed to be shoes?" "They're shoes, all right," he says. "I guess you don't like them." "Not at all? I mean, aside from the heels?" "Sure," I say, holding one shoe in each hand, the suede soft as velvet. "What's not to like? They're sensational. Course, it's hard to overlook such outlandish appendages. Probably cost a fortune, too." He shrugs, suddenly awkward. "Look," he says, "they're not really to wear. Outside, that is." He gestures at the bindle's wrappings. "They're just for us. Me, really. Both of us. I wish you... What I mean is... But if you really hate them..." All at once he is a decade my junior, a very young man asking me to have a drink with him, expecting to be refused. I have not seen him like this before. "Darling," I say, overcome in a rush. "They're lovely. Feel this leather. Of course I'll wear them." "I'm glad," he says, with a remaining trace of sheepishness. "I was hoping you would. There's always a chance you might get to like them." And buoyant again. "Put the stuff on." So I do. As always until this evening, and tonight for the last time, I am wearing only a shirt, so it doesn't take long, though getting the seams straight is much trickier than I would have guessed. The shoes fit perfectly. "I took your black ones with me," he says, "and I insisted, and they found a girl that size, and she tried on 9 pairs before I settled on these. Thank God you're an average size." The heels make me so much taller we're nearly eye to eye. He hugs me lightly, runs his hands up my sides to my breasts, moves the palm of each hand, fingers extended in small circles, a nipple at the center of each. His face is blank. The gray pupils on which mine are focused reflect 2 miniature faces. His hands move down my midriff to the garter belt. He traces its outlines around my body, then one by one follows each of the 4 straps down to where the stockings begin. It is almost dark. He switches on the floor lamp behind us, says, "Stay here," walks back to the couch and sits down. "Now," he says, in a husky voice, "come over here. Take your time." I walk slowly across the carpet. I take small steps, cautious, my body tilted into a foreign alignment. My arms hang awkwardly from their sockets. Something roars in my ears, amplifying each breath I take. "Turn around now," he says, when I'm a few steps away from the couch. I can barely hear him, and lift up the shirt. I turn and stand very straight, holding the shirt tails tucked up at my sides with my elbows. "Are you disappointed?" I say, in what turns out to be a high-pitched, flat voice. "Are you kidding? You're a sight," he murmurs behind me. "You're a sight, sweetheart." My eyes close. I listen to the roar in my ears, every square inch of my skin aching to be touched. Trying to clear my ears, I shake my head, hair catches in my mouth. "Please," I think, "please." "Get down on all fours," he says, "and pull your shirt up. Pull it up. I want to see your ass." I look at the tightly woven carpet, a rich gray, now only a few inches from my face. "Crawl around," he says, his voice very low. "Crawl over to the door. Crawl around." I move my right arm forward, my right knee, my left arm. I think, is it elephants that do this differently? My left knee. I am suspended in a silence that is broken by someone's muffled conversation in the corridor outside the apartment. A door slams. The cellist on the floor below begins to practice, and I concentrate on his characteristic initial outburst with interest. I have always assumed that musicians warm up slowly, like joggers. This one starts out with great verve and volume and gradually winds down over the course of his 3-hour run. He is bald and surly. I've seen him in the elevator. I can't, I say. It seems as if the sound of my voice has made my body crumple. For a second, my face is flat against the carpet, which appears flawlessly smooth when seen from a standing height, but is less soft to the skin than one might expect. I sit up. The height of these hills prevents me from sitting in the position I suddenly long for, my knees drawn up to my chin, my arms around me. "Tell me," he says, neutrally. I feel stupid, I say. It makes me feel foolish. The one lamp at the other end of the room is not bright enough for me to be able to see the expression on his face. He folds his arms behind his head and leans back against the couch cushions. I get up, teeter, say, "This rug itches," under my breath, but as if imparting valuable information, and sit down in the nearest chair. I cross my arms over the shirt fronts I have wrapped around me. One of the sleeves has come down, and I tug the cuff over my fingers and curl my hand, inside the fabric, into a fist. "It's not as if we haven't been through all this," he says, not looking at me. "I hate packing. I hate unpacking even worse. It took me a week to unpack that suitcase of yours the last time around." The cello below erupts as if flayed by a madman. "What I don't get is why you can't keep the idea of being hit in your mind, why it always actually has to be done to you. Before you say to me, 'No, I don't want to do that,' why you don't picture me taking off my belt in your head, why you don't remember from one night to the next what it feels like when it comes down on you. We have to fucking negotiate each and every time, and in the end you do what I tell you anyway. No," I say, inaudibly first. "No," I say, "please." He leans toward me now, pushing hair off his forehead. "It makes me feel like a dog," I say, "crawling. I'm scared you'll make fun of me." "You should feel stupid," he says. "What a crock of shit. If I ever make fun of you, I'll let you know." I shake my head, mute. Scowling and scrutinizing me closely, he walks toward and past me. I am sitting rigidly at the edge of the chair, my knees pressed together, my forearms tight against my stomach muscles. His hands are on my shoulders. I am pulled back until my shoulder blades touch the upholstery. Then his hand in my hair, massaging my scalp, closing into a fist, drawing slowly back until my face lies horizontal, the top of my head against his cock. He rubs the lower half of my face with the heel of his hand. My mouth soon opens. When I am moaning steadily, he leaves the room and comes back with the riding crop. He lays it on the coffee table. "Look at it," he says. "Look at me. In 3 minutes I can get you so you'll be in bed for a week." But I barely hear him. The inadequate, the minuscule, the fiber optics passage I have in my throat instead of a trachea allows me only quicksilver sips of air. My open mouth feels bruised. "Crawl," he says. I'm on hands and knees again. I press my face hard into my right shoulder and feel how the trembling in my chin, instead of being steadied, transmits through bone after bone until my arms shake and my legs down to my toes. I hear the tip of the leather-covered handle scrape against the tabletop. A white-hot pain leaps across the back of my thighs. Tears spring to my eyes, sudden as magic. Released as if from a dangerous stupor, I crawl from the chair to the bedroom door, limber and easily to the lamp in the far corner. A loudly purring cat weaves figure eights around my arms. Both stockings tear at the knees, and I can feel a run creep jerkily up each thigh. When I've almost reached the couch again, he overtakes me, pushes me down, turns me on my back. It's the one time with him, and the first time at all, that I come at the same time as my lover. He licks my face then. Each spot is first warm and, when his tongue moves on, abruptly cold, sweat and saliva evaporating in the conditioned air. When he stops, I open my eyes. "But you beat me anyway," I whisper. "Even when I do what you—" "Yes," he says. "Because you like hitting me," I whisper. "Yes," he says, "and watching you flinch, and holding you down, and hearing you beg. I love the sounds when you can't keep quiet, when you're past holding back. I love seeing a bruise on you and knowing where it came from, welts on your ass." I shiver. He reaches back and up and yanks down the old blanket he keeps folded under a cushion in the corner of the couch. He shakes it open and covers me with it and says, tucking the frayed satin binding under my chin, "And because you want it, too." "I do," I whisper. "Never then. Never while—" "I know," he says, close to my ear, his hands deep in my hair, tight and soothing on my scalp. No one saw my body except for him, a kid named Jimmy, and a woman whose name I wasn't told. Sometimes in the bathtub or when I caught my reflection in the mirror, I would regard my bruises with the unfocused curiosity reserved for looking at snapshots of other people's cousins. They had nothing to do with me. My body had nothing to do with me. It was a decoy to be used whichever way he decided, toward the end of exciting us both. While undressing me in preparation for my bath, he says, "I've hired a masseur for tonight." He drops my blouse onto the white tiles of the bathroom floor. I step out of my skirt and sit on the edge of the tub while he takes off my shoes, then stands up again while he slips down my underpants. He likes my underpants, white cotton, Woolworths. He likes this skirt, too. Pulling it carefully up over my thighs this morning, he said, "That's my favorite skirt on you. Does your ass justice." I watch him lean over the tub, push the plug, reach out to pick, after a moment's hesitation, a brightly printed packet wedged between the bottles lined up on the inside ledge of the tub. He leans forward again to turn on the water, tests its temperature, adjusts the left knob, and sprinkles green powder carefully under the gushing faucets. It suddenly occurs to me how out of place he looks. A man in a well-fitted business suit. His tie sitting properly between two starched collar points, as if he were about to address a conference table or speak into a news camera, or listen to yet another story of marital discord in preparation for court, doing none of the things for which she is dressed, but leaning over a steaming bathtub instead, one hand braced at the edge of the porcelain, the other fingering the rapidly rising foam. He sniffs. Not bad, is it? A little sweet, maybe. Not quite as drenched in herbs as they rave on the package, but nice, anyway. I nod. He smiles at me, so full of warmth, of bliss even, that something catches in my throat. All one could ever wish for is a small room filling with steam, and the smell of lavender above an undercurrent of mint. He leaves and comes back with the handcuffs. He fastens them around the wrists I stretch toward him and holds on to my elbow as I step into the water, which is on the verge of being too hot, but will, I know, be perfect the moment I'm stretched out in it. The tub is deep and 3/4 filled, and I have to tilt my chin up to keep the bubbles out of my mouth. Only when he has turned off the water and glanced at me once more does he loosen his tie and take off his coat. I hear him rummage in the kitchen, his footsteps sharp on the tiles, then muffled on the living room carpet. Shared the secrets of my soul. Chris Christopherson glides across slopes of foam. We have listened to WQXR only once since I have mentioned in passing, during the course of God knows what forgotten conversation, that the station now playing is my favorite. He had told me that an obscure Vivaldi was scheduled that he had never heard. You don't need to explain, I had wailed. Change the station. It's your apartment. He had grinned and winked at me and said, I know, and later decided that it hadn't been first-rate Vivaldi, but well worth listening to, nonetheless. Every night she kept me from the cold. He comes back with a glass of Chablis, squats beside the tub, tilts the glass for me to drink from with his right hand, trade all my tomorrows for a single yesterday, pushing bubbles off my chin with his left. The wine is ice cold on my tongue, holding Bobby's body next to mine. He settles back on the toilet and unbuttons his vest with one hand, takes 3 long gulps. His name's Jimmy. He sounded Irish on the phone. Did you ever hear of an Irish masseur? No, I say, and giggle. Freedom's just another word for... I thought they were all Swedish. Nothing left to lose. I did too, he says. Or possibly French. Nothing ain't worth nothing. What is he coming here for? But it's free. To do a tap dance on the kitchen counter. Pretty stupid question there. Feeling good was easy, Lord. That message you had that you told me about, feeling good was good enough for me. I thought you'd like another one. I think, yes, that's it. I can't ever just say something, anything, and consider it forgotten. He pays attention to what I say. It's hard to get used to. You don't often run across such a peculiar habit. There is nothing that merely amuses or interests him at the moment. He always draws consequences. If I'm looking at Newsweek and read a passage from a book review out loud, he will buy the book for me that week. In the middle of an hours-long rambling and partly drunk conversation on a Saturday night, he describes picking blueberries behind his aunt's house, where he stayed for a summer at the age of 9, and I say, Blueberries, don't you love blueberries? About midnight he says, I'm going to get the paper. Half an hour later there he is, carrying the Times all right under one arm, but in the other he has a brown paper bag, and inside is a container of blueberries. He washes and hulls and drains them while I read the arts and leisure section, and he's bought a pint of heavy cream and pours a greedy heap of berries into a large salad bowl and feeds them to me until I say, if I have one more spoonful, I'm going to be sick. and he grins and eats the few leftover berries floating in cream. Where on earth did you get these at this hour? I finally think to ask. Grew them, he says solemnly, on the corner of 6th and Greenwich, and slurps the remaining liquid loudly, holding the bowl with both hands. The monsieur arrives at 5 to 8. He looks about 20. He is short and stocky, with a great deal of wavy blonde hair and bulging biceps under a dark blue t-shirt and nylon jacket. He wears jeans and sneakers and carts one towel and a bottle of oil in an Icelandic flight bag. I take off my shirt as I'm told and lie on my stomach on the bed. I'm going to watch, he announces to the silent Jimmy. I'd like to learn what you do, so I can do it when you're not available. Always available, grunts Jimmy, and dive bombs into my shoulders. His hands, slick with oil, are much larger than one would expect from someone his height. Huge and warm. My arms turn limp. I have to fight to keep my mouth from lolling open. His palms work their way up my rib cage, slowly, digging deeply, a steady advance. My shoulders again, another start at the waist. I am close to grunting whenever his hands bear down. Let me try it, his voice above me. The big hands lifted, my eyelids as heavy as if shut under water. These hands are cooler, touching me lightly by comparison. The monsieur corrects him wordlessly, demonstrates, then the cool hands on me again with more weight this time. The big paws on my thighs, bypassing the towel across my buttocks. My calves next, then my feet. Teacher and pupil in turn grasping a foot with one hand, applying exquisite pressure with the other. I'm turned over. The process reverses up the front of my body. I am long past containing myself and groan blissfully under the bare arms that grind me into the sheets. He repeats each of the monsieur's moves, now much less tentatively, close in effect to what the monster hands do. My muscles are ablaze and suspended. It's over. Someone covers me with a sheet and turns off the lights. I hear the giddy, whooshing sound a nylon sleeve makes when an arm is pushed into it. The refrigerator door slams. 2 beer cans pop. For a while there is mumbling, which lulls me further. I am almost asleep. 25 extra. The bedside lamp is lit again. I am told to lie across the width of the bed, face down. The sheet is thrown over my legs. I hear the squeak of the closet door, the explosive crack of a fresh sheet being shaken free of its laundry creases. Cool cotton slides across my shoulders and back. A belt is being unbuckled. There is the grating of leather pulled sharply through cloth loops. The skin on the back of my body is divided into distinct segments. The areas that have been massaged are subdued, smoothed to a trance under the sheets. The skin now exposed bristles with tension, a faint draft from the air conditioner sluicing each capillary. What is it, Jimmy? There is a growl. You got the wrong man. More throat clearing. You don't understand. His voice is smooth. I told you you're not going to hurt her, I promise you. You don't see her struggling, do you? Is she yelling for the neighbors? It makes her hot, I'm telling you. That's what she gets off on. So you hit her. 30 then. The mattress gives under the weight of a body that settles to my right. I am struck a few times and bury my head in the crook of an elbow. At that rate you'll be here forever. His voice is very close to my head. There is the odor of beer and sweat. The mattress moves under me again as the body to my right shifts its weight. A hand is in my hair and my head is pulled up. I open my eyes. 35. The blows fall harder. He is crouching on the floor beside the bed. Our faces almost touch. The whites of his eyes are laced with red. His pupils are dilated. I can't keep from wincing now and begin to squirm. 40, he says, in a low voice. His forehead glistens. The body above me braces a knee in the middle of my back, and under the next blow my mouth opens wide. I struggle silently, trying to pry his fist from my hair with one hand, pushing his face away from me with the other, thrashing my legs. He forces my wrists together, holds them in a fierce lock, resumes his grip in my hair, yanks up my head. "Come on, you bastard, 50, he hisses and covers my mouth with his. The blow that follows makes me moan inside his mouth. Under the next one, I wrench free and cry out. "That's enough, Jimmy," he says, as if to a waiter who has served him too large a portion, or to a child who is having a minor tantrum at the end of a tiring day.